Hey guys, today we're going to review a video about a fake billionaire, how they scam their way into some of the nicest apartments in New York.
Really know who you're dealing with. She could have been an actual billionaire. She could have been a scam artist, and I would never know the difference.
This project is kind of like a Robin Hood project. I pretended to be a billionaire so I can get into the most exclusive apartments in New York.
We're not just selling a building. The reason
I'll
why
be
people
honest,
are living
I pretend I'm a
here is
billionaire every
because
day
of the
just so
lifestyle that we're offering.
I can get through it.
85 million, 10 million, 16 million.
These people are the 1% of the 1%.
I think it's really obscene that these buildings exist.
Your maid will be getting ready with dinner while you're just having one of the finest champagnes in a soaking tub with your husband. Imagine waking up every morning to these views. Gabriella, I really see you living here.
I wish.
The cheapest property I've been to was 10
And that is a
million,
beautiful view.
and the most
I can
expensive was 85 million.
I can live there
They
for sure.
manipulate the cities to the disadvantage of everyone else in the cities. My name is Andy Schmidt, and in 2016, I spent 3 months in New York at an artist residency program. Basically,
I can't
this
even
whole
understand
idea
$85
started,
million.
with the biggest
To be honest, I
cliche
can't
that I went
understand
up to
that.
the Empire State Building and I saw the views, and I basically realized that there are lots of buildings that are as tall or even taller than the Empire State Building. And I just basically was really curious about what the view from those buildings look like. That's when I started to work on my book and my project. I chose 25 buildings, high, ultra luxury towers.
93 stories above the city, this is what $81 million
Yep.
gets you. A full penthouse, 8,400 square feet, with floor-to-ceiling views of a metropolis.
My goal was really to show those views that are considered to be the best views you can privately own in New York. First, I really just wanted to photograph the views for the book. As I was going deeper and deeper in this world, it became more and more obvious that it's like something totally bizarre and crazy. I was laying in bed, and really I was just thinking, how could I get in those buildings? I remember I told about the project to the curator who was working at the residency, and she told me no way they would ever let you in without a credit check. The only way for that is to pretend to be.
Yeah, it's crazy. How are you going to come up with $85 million if you're not already in that circle? That's a circle of people that are in. There's only like 300,000 people in the world that have over $30 million. So like some of those guys on the low end can't even afford an $85 million apartment. So that circle is really small.
A billionaire who is searching for an apartment. From the moment on that I started to work on the project, this was pretty much the only thing I could think about. Write it down, check the address, go home, check if there's any real estate available, call the agency, and usually next day go and see it and take a picture of the view. And so really for 3 months I was living in between this Gabriella, which was my billionaire persona, and myself back and forth on the A line from Brooklyn to Manhattan.
My name is Daniel Rosenstein. I've worked in real estate for
I wonder
4
if I could
years.
fake
I
being
met
a billionaire
Andy
to my
2
bank.
years ago when she was infiltrating New York's most exclusive properties. I was doing Airbnb in my apartment in the Upper West Side.
And first I remember that he asked me, what are you doing in New York? And when he said he's a real estate agent, I was actually a bit hesitant to tell him what I came here for.
She told me that she was making a book. So I think at first I
Infiltrate.
was like, oh, is she mocking our profession? I'm just a pawn in your project here. And then the more she was talking about it, the more I saw her point of view, which is almost nobody has access to these apartments. You have to go through a doorman, you have to reach out to a real estate agent. It's not a normal real estate market where you can show up to an open house. She asked a few questions, I think how to navigate
A little sensitive, man.
getting into
Relax.
buildings. I told her to use the term we're looking for a pied-à-terre or second home in the city. A lot of really wealthy people look for second, third, fourth, fifth homes. And she, at that point, had essentially created her whole persona.
Gabriela is my actual middle name because at the beginning I didn't know if they would check my passport ever. And actually at some of the properties they did check it. And I remember back then I got really obsessed by many of these small details.
Hereditaire.
I need to do my nails and I need to have proper shoes, proper bag. In order to do this project, I needed to bring my camera and photograph the view. This made me obviously very unusual in the eyes of the agents. But I also realized that the stranger I act, the more convincing it is that I'm actually
Yeah, billionaires. I mean, to be in, like I said, it's a small circle. So like, they're most of them are probably socially awkward. So this fits.
a billionaire and I just don't give a shit.
Don't give a shit is right.
I was really, really nervous at this very first viewing. The agent started to ask me if I have a chef, if I have a nanny, if we have private
Yes.
chauffeur.
Yes.
So I just randomly answered yes and no. And all of these answers kind of became part of what Gabriela was.
Tell your husband
Look at that
every
view.
morning that this is really where you want to be.
There are a few different types of agents. There are the ones who are kind of like very natural and just showing you, here is the kitchen, here is the bathroom, this is the price. And there is the complete other end of the spectrum.
You will feel, Gabriella, it is like going on a journey from the sidewalks of 19th century old New York to the sidewalks of Florence.
I actually might just prefer
This guy's a terrible seller. What is that? The Florence. There's no Florence there, man.
the 21st
So
century.
imagine your daughter running around
Yeah, that's very bizarre.
saying words in Hungarian.
It was really hard to kind of like keep a straight face in those viewings. I mean, it was like really bizarre what they were telling me.
Sit down, Gabriella. It really is a moment for you. Just tell your husband he loves you and he wants you to be happy. I'm sure he will not say no to you if you let him know this is really your first choice.
Because this ultra luxury segment of the real estate is actually now not really going that well. The newer the development, the crazier the amenities they have, because there's really this like huge competition. One of the things that became an absolute standard for these buildings is the golf simulator room. Michelin-starred private restaurant in the building, theater, swimming pool, obviously.
Equinox gym, they have children's playroom, a billiards room, a conference room, and everything in between.
In one of the
There's-
penthouses, it was
They give them all this
that
stuff for
they would
free.
give
They're
you a
already
yacht
rich. What are you
as
giving them a
present
free yacht for?
when you buy the apartment? A yacht.
So you mentioned the number of people who are actually living in poverty according to the federal poverty numbers. But we all know living in New York, it's a whole different ballgame.
The average rent across the city has returned to nearly pre-pandemic levels.
We built fewer homes in the 2010s than in any decade going back to the 1960s.
I think the way poverty is usually portrayed is from the bottom. So you talk about homelessness or you talk about people who cannot afford housing. I think when you see it from this like very top of the sphere, it somehow is also very telling. The buildings that you can see from every single corner of the city are these ultra luxury real estate, which are not accessible for anyone really. Apartments and buildings are standing 60 to 70% empty.
See, that's crazy. All this empty space that they're just pricing people out of. Regular people. I mean, not even like poor people, just regular people can't even live in some of these spaces that if you just divvy them up, you can have a lot of regular people just living in the city and being not having to make these crazy commutes from Connecticut and all these other places. Just make it affordable. You're really creating such a problem, and it's just for rich people who don't even want it because they're vacant.
Commercial and residential wonderland featuring some of the city's tallest buildings and most expensive restaurants and condos.
If you are looking to call Steinway Tower home, studios start at
Studios.
$7.7
$7.7
million.
Listen, you know, not to be not sympathetic to the homeless, but if you live in 157, you're paying millions of dollars to live there. Do you want a homeless shelter in your building? I don't think so.
We are not building enough housing for everybody who needs a place to live.
Here's what it's like living in the smallest apartment in New York.
Yep.
Wherever your expectations are, lower them.
So these buildings are kind of really soulless in a sense. They are super standardized.
The trends that I see in these properties are a lot of the same finishes and materials used. Some of the floor plans are the exact same. I think it's a really challenging task to create something different when you're working with essentially the same floor plan, which is a tall square or a rectangle in the sky.
Oh wow, who was the interior designer?
Deborah Burke.
Yo, this
There
dude's
is no
voice
one better in design at
is
the moment.
super
So
creepy
you have
villain,
always
like
just
millionaire.
some very special type of
crazy.
marble in the apartment that the agents would always highlight.
The marble is Siberian, which is now the best on the market.
Then you would have the oak floor, which is always the best type of oak floor. And there's like really nothing that would make any of these buildings stand out, to be honest. But it's not really surprising when you realize that it's solely a form of investment, most of the cases. So it's really not about living, and it's not about having a soul. And it shows. It's really obvious when you are there. One of the most striking things was how agents are trying to always go out of their way to tell me that no one else lives in these buildings, that I'm not going to have any neighbors.
Why?
A lot of
Why
these
don't you
billionaire
want
road
neighbors?
towers are investments for overseas and local people. So they'll rent them out, or they'll just own them, have them sit empty for a number of years and resell them. It's a safe investment. It holds value over time. But what that translates to is buildings sitting empty. There's a trickle-down effect. So once the hyper-expensive properties become even more expensive, it raises the value of everything else beneath it.
I get very often the comment that this project is kind of like a Robin Hood project, in the sense that I'm getting the views which other people or most people cannot see to the public. And it's like being so high up, it's cool. But then it didn't feel good to be there, in a way. Or one of the very big problems of these buildings, they are casting sometimes hundreds and hundreds of meters of shadows, for example, over the Central Park or over other people's up until then sunny living rooms, or just over the streets. And so somehow these buildings that are not even lived in are taking away such natural things from the rest of the city as sunlight.
There's a lot of money in New York, and I think there will always continue to be a lot of money in New York. I do think it's going to be more segregated.
What I learned from this project is really just how obscene differences are in society, I guess, and how this can translate into this like very literal physical form in the city, and how
Yeah, we really can't
is
fathom
impacting everything around it.
Like, I mean, unless you're a billionaire watching this, you really can't fathom how these people live. Like, it's you'd think, oh yeah, you know, like they don't even walk down the same streets we walk down. They don't. The shoes, the brands of shoes. If you're looking at these guys wearing Gucci shoes, there's another brand out there that we've never heard of that they're all wearing. That we won't even get close to that. But thanks for watching, guys. Leave any comments down below. If you're a billionaire, you know, look me up. And yeah, like the video, subscribe, watch some other stuff on this channel, and comment down below anything else you want me to react to or watch. Thanks, guys.